back when the world was new, and creatures of magic walked with creatures of non-magic, a king of old was having a small problem. For you see, the king was a man of war, but he had no mode of transportation to get to the battlefield in time to help his men. The king decided he would have to have some kind of steed. First he thought a chariot would do nicely, but in its first battle it was found the chariot was rather large and clunky, hard to move, and at one point it broke down, leaving the king completely vulnerable.
"This will never do,"
the king said. So he set out to find an animal to make his steed. The mouse was fast, but very small. The elephant was big, but it was too slow. The unicorn was untamable. And the dragon? Was too terrifying to seek out. The king was about to give up when his royal seer came to him and said, "If you are seeking a ride, go see the spirit Air, my lord." And the king did just that. Air was a spirit of mischief and fun. He could be kind, or he could cause chaos. In Air's possession were 4 horses. They were very dear to him. The spirit had them since they were orphan foals. Each had a name. Nor was the oldest. Alth was the smallest. Then there were the twins, Est and Wed. Their beauty and speed were second to none. When the king saw this, he begged Air to give the 4 to him. Air was hesitant. He loved his horses more than anything.
"I promise. It will just be for a little while,"
said the king. Air finally agreed, but he warned the king that his horses were mortal. They were not spirits like him. They must be treated with respect and kindness, as well as given rest and food. The king gave Air his word, and with a small twang of sorrow in his heart, Air turned the 4 over to the king. The king treated the 4 as if they were gods. He made his servants wash and feed the horses 5 times a day, even giving them their own plot of land with rolling hills and lush green grass. It seemed that the king was holding good to his promise. But he was growing old, and his lust for control was passed on to his children. It was they who now rode the horses into battle. It was they who now decided the horses' fate. As time went on, the 4 were getting older and older. They began to require more time to rest and eat. This annoyed the king's children. If one horse refused to move, they would whip him till he began to bleed, then leaving him on the ground for the servants to find while they fetched another one. The king's children worked the poor beasts to death. The first to leave the living was Alf, who had grown very sick. The second was Nor, shot by an arrow during a battle. Then came Est, who had become so broken down from the labor that was placed upon him that his heart gave out. As for his sister Wed, she could not bear to live without her brother, so the next day she too died. When Air heard of what had become of his beloved horses, the spirit's heart was torn apart. "You gave me your word!" Air cried, banging on the palace door. But those who were inside refused to let him in. Air recoiled, returning to his home and refusing to show his face, for he had become very ill, as he mourned his loss alone. But it was his siblings who took up the revenge, and none could escape their wrath. Earth shook the ground, causing it to split open, threatening to swallow towns and the people who lived in them. Water refused to let the rain fall upon the crops, creating a great drought throughout the kingdom. And fire. She was the most terrifying of all, burning everything in her path. The people came running to the king's children, begging for help. The children went running to their father, begging for answers. "Give the spirit Air gifts. That will appease him," the king said. The children tried, but no offer would do. It had gotten so bad that the palace itself had crumbled away, killing one of the king's children. No one knew what to do. Unbeknownst to the living, however, deep within the dead realm, the 4 horses were breaking through the veil that separated the living from the dead. They had sensed Air's sorrows, and their love for their spirit grew with such strength that they ripped through the veil. The 4 began to run, faster than they ever had in life, and faster than any known creature to this day. They ran to find their dear friend, that missed them just as they missed him. They found him, and when Air saw his most beloved horses come running towards him, his illness had left. Air called each one of them by name. Even though they were nothing more than echoes, the ghosts of their once living selves, to Air it was as if they had never died, they had never left him. "Go! Quickly!" Air gasped, realizing that Death would be furious when she found out the ghosts of the horses were in the living realm. "To the corners of the world. Go! I will always find you," he added. And thus the 4 horses separated, to escape from Death, and Air was not far behind them. The 4 horses were free, to run and stay with their beloved spirit Air, and they still run to this day. So perhaps that gust of wind that whoops by you is Est, daring you to a race. Or maybe the soft, gentle breeze you feel is Oath, saying hello.